Hi guys, it's Olivia. I hope you're all doing well, staying safe and healthy during this time. It's really crazy. Never would have thought that this would happen. I feel like just yesterday I was in class with you guys saying, "Oh my God, I might go home." Um, it's sad, but it's okay. We're making the best of it. As you guys know, for my presentation, I have The Member of the Wedding, our most recent book that we read. For my presentation, I decided to kind of compare Frankie Adams to Mick Kelly from The Heart is a Lonely Hunter, the first book that we read. Um, they have a lot of similarities, obviously, as we know. Their gender, the way they act, their age, kind of just they have a lot of similarities, which also align with McCullers herself. They kind of reflect her in that way. And so I'm gonna get into all of that. I actually have Strange Bodies by Sarah Gleason White Up, the same book that Greer used, but different chapter, obviously. But to start, I'm gonna read a passage from the book. Um, Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. I'm gonna read a passage from the book about Frankie, two passages, kind of like one and a half, just to kind of use it as an introduction, refresh our memories on who she is, and kind of use this passage as a way to transition into how Mick compares, and how the two are similar and all of that. So if you guys have the book in front of you, if you want to follow along, it's on page 497, 497 and 500, 501. It's a little long, but I'm gonna read it just so you guys can hear it if you don't have the book in front of you. So this is Frankie. Well, Frankie's not saying it, it's the narrator, but she's thinking it. Sorry. It's the narrator, but Frankie's thinking it. It's kind of when she has that realization about who she is and what, that she now belongs to a group. Yeah, let me just read it and then I can explain more after. So on page 497, it says, "The darkening town was very quiet. For a long time now, her brother and the bride had been at Winter Hill. They had left the town 100 miles behind them, and now were in a city far away. They were them and in Winter Hill together, while she was her, and in the same old town all by herself. The long 100 miles did not make her sadder and make her feel more far away than the knowing that they were them and both together, and she was only her and parted from them by herself. As she sickened with this feeling, a thought and explanation suddenly came to her, so that she knew and almost said aloud, 'They are the we of me.' Yesterday, in all the 12 years of her life, she had only been Frankie. She was an I person who had to walk around and do things by herself. All other people had a we to claim, all others except her. When Bernice said we, she meant Honey and Big Mama, her lodge, or her church. The we of her father was the store. All members of clubs have a we to belong to and to talk about. The soldiers in the army can say we, and even the criminals on chain gangs. But the old Frankie had had no we to claim, unless it would be the terrible summer we of her and John Henry and Bernice. And that was the last we in the world she wanted. Now all this was suddenly over with and changed. There was her brother and the bride, and it was as though when she first saw them, something she had known inside of her. They are the we of me. And that was why it made her feel so queer, for them to be away in Winter Hill while she was left all by herself, the hull of the old Frankie left there in the town alone. So that's on page 497, and then on page 500, she's talking with John Henry after dinner when they're in the backyard, and he's talking to her, And she doesn't answer, and it says, Frankie did not answer. She was suddenly very still and quiet, for a new feeling had come to her. The sudden feeling was that she knew deep in her where she would go. She knew, and in another minute the name of the place would come to her. Frankie bit the knuckles of her fist and waited. But she did not hunt for the name of the place, and she did not think about the turning world. She saw in her mind her brother and the bride, and the heart in her was squeezed so hard that Frankie felt it almost break. And then it's John Henry's talking to her. And then it says, but she could not argue with John Henry West or answer anything he said, for it was just at that moment that Frankie understood. She knew who she was and how she was going into the world. Her squeezed heart suddenly opened and divided. Her heart divided like two wings, and when she spoke, her voice was sure. I know where I'm going, she said. He asked her where. I'm going to Winter Hill, she said. I'm going to the wedding. She waited to give him a chance to say, I already knew that anyhow. Then finally she spoke the sudden truth aloud. I'm going with them. After the wedding at Winter Hill, I'm going off with the two of them to whatever place they will ever go. I'm going with them. He did not answer. I love the two of them so much. We'll go to every place together. It's like I've known it all my life, that I belong to be with them. I love the two of them so much. And having said this, she did not need to wonder and puzzle any more. She opened her eyes, and it was night. The lavender sky had last grown dark, and there was slanted starlight and twisted shade. Her heart had divided like two wings, and she had never seen a night so beautiful. Frankie stood looking into the sky, for when the old question came to her, the who she was and what she would be in the world, and why she was standing there that minute, when the old question came to her, she did not feel hurt and unanswered. At last she knew who she was and understood where she was going. She loved her brother and the bride, and she was a member of the wedding. The three of them would go into the world, and they would always be together. And finally, after the scared spring and the crazy summer, she was no more afraid. And that's the last sentence of part 1, actually. Sorry, my computer was frozen. So that was the last sentence of part 1. So to just go back and kind of digest it all, so going back to page 497 and just the whole thing, this is kind of the moment when Frankie realizes, like, oh, like, this is who I belong to, these are my people, this is my club. And I think it's kind of ironic because, I mean, obviously you can count your family as a we, you know, like in some ways, yeah, she does belong to them. That's her brother. She loves her brother. As we know, she's obsessed with them. She's obsessed with the wedding. It makes sense that she would consider herself part of it, but at the same time, it's kind of ironic, and I think it's kind of sad in some ways that, you know, she's only 12, she's still a kid, and she feels so lonely, and it's like this is who she's associating herself with. You know, like she even says, unless you're gonna count Bernice and John Henry, and that's the last thing she wanted, you know, like, and John Henry is so close to age with her, you know, and it's like, God forbid I associate myself as being, you know, with John Henry or like part of him or his club, but it's just, she feels so lonely. And it's kind of, it's sad the way that she's like, you know, Bernice has the church, my dad has the store, you know, and oh my God, I have them, I'm a member of the wedding. And it's, I think it's definitely sad. And I think it also kind of comes from this place of desperation, you know, like I said, like she wants to be a part of something so badly, and she wants to have, you know, a club to identify herself with so bad, you know, it's like she really like doesn't have any friends, and she wants friends, and she wants to kind of have that sense of purpose, I think. And I think especially because she sees the way that Janice and Jarvis, you know, they love each other so much, they're getting married. I think she kind of sees how they would have a sense of purpose for each other. Obviously, you know, if you're getting married to someone, you're in love with someone, they are kind of like your purpose. And I think she sees this happening, and she kind of wants it, you know, and I think that I feel bad for her. I think, you know, she is lonely. And I think this segues into Mick, and how Mick was very lonely too. The title of that novel is literally "The Heart is a Lonely Hunter." You know, and as we know, she confides in Singer a lot. As we even saw when we analyzed after Singer died, Mick was heavily impacted by his death. Yeah, I think this video is almost over. I am not very good at technology and filming things. So I'm using Screencast-O-Matic, and the free version, you can only do 15-minute intervals. So I apologize in advance. I'm probably gonna have to post like 3 videos. I know, or maybe even 4. I know that that's kind of a lot, but I didn't know how else to do it. This video is almost over, but in the next video, I'm gonna pull up Strange Bodies and dig deeper into that, and dig deeper into how Mick and Frankie are even more closely related. But before I end this video, just to kind of go back in to a part that I was just looking at the bottom of page 500, even when she's like, I love the two of them so much. It's like I've known it all my life that I belong with them. I love the two of them so much. And I also think this is interesting because if you think about it from Janice and Jarvis's point of view, you know, they obviously love her. Jarvis is her brother. Janice is about to be her sister-in-law. You know, they obviously love her, their family. But you have to think that she probably loves them a lot more than they love her. Not individually, but just at least as a couple. Like, she's infatuated with them. She loves them. You know, the way she says, I've known it all my life. I belong with them. And it's like, how? Like, it's just funny that she would kind of think that. And I was also just looking at, again, where the very last 2 sentences, well, the second to last sentence says, the 3 of them would go into the world together and they would always be together. And it's kind of also funny almost in a way because she doesn't even ask them about this. She doesn't even talk to them. She's just kind of like, I'm going to go with them and we're always going to be together. We're going to do everything together. Like, we're this club now. Like, we're best friends. And, you know, obviously you are best friends with your brother and his fiance, but she's kind of imagining something that is a little far-fetched. Like, they want her at their honeymoon. You know, and just even the way the chapter ends, she was no more afraid. Like, this is it. She's figured it out. She is just gonna go with them, and she's a member of the wedding. And in her eyes, that's it. No more John Henry, no more Bernice. She's on to bigger things. She is going to the wedding. And like I said, this kind of it all exemplifies her struggle to identify with other people and to kind of find that sense of unity. You know, it's like, who does she belong to? I think it's interesting. You guys, I would love to hear in your posts if you agree, if you think she is a little crazy, or if you think, you know, maybe you think that she's right, or maybe you just feel bad for her. I think you can even tell in the movie that, you know, she is by herself the whole time with Bernice in the kitchen, and it kind of just even more so depicts how she is by herself. which this video is about to end, but in the next video, I'm gonna go more into it with the strange body.